Hello, everybody, and welcome to another semi-exciting episode of the Michael and Patty Show. I'm Michael.
And I'm Patty.
Patty, I've got some big news. Well, actually, I was considering making a massive change to the podcast, but then I regressed, or I changed my mind. I was thinking that you've been such a great permanent guest or co-host that we would alternate the name and change it to the Patty and Michael Show. What do you think?
No, I think that's a terrible idea. And I've been a great guest/co-host. So which one is it?
Well, you're now the co-host.
Yes. Yeah.
A permanent guest. So why I changed my mind is the acronym for the current show is MAPS, which we never, ever dreamed of ever having. It just happened to turn out that way. And I think 90 episodes into it, we figured out the acronym was MAPS.
That's exactly what happened.
Which was kind of cool. But when I ran the acronym in my head for the Patty and Michael Show, it was PAMS, which brings the thoughts of anti-stick cooking spray or having a guest named Pam.
Yeah, that name just doesn't.
So the bottom line is you're out.
That name doesn't stick as well.
We're sticking with MAPS, and today we're talking about the April stats. This episode's recorded in the middle of May 2026, so we're going to get into Prince Edward Island real estate stats real quick because I know they're not overly exciting, judging by the views we've had in the past on our YouTube channels. Home sales are up 1.1%. Boy, that sounds impressive, doesn't it?
High numbers there.
Oh, big numbers. So home sales, this report in April, 184 units versus 182 last year. As you can see, we're dealing with some big numbers here. There's 2 more units sold. New listings are down 3.1%. 377 new listings compared to 389 last year. The market is balanced. So all you sellers that are 20-30% overpriced, you have no leverage because the market is not in favor of the seller. It's balanced.
Correct. Not in favor of the buyer or the seller.
Benchmark price, which is supposed to be the typical home in the province, is $378,900 Canadian. So according to this, you can buy, and we just saw a house transact. Actually, it was a completely renovated 3-bedroom bungalow in a semi-good location. It was a great location, but it was on the corner of a really busy road, and it transacted for about $400,000.
Nice.
So that goes to show you. But if you want a new house in a nice neighborhood, you're probably looking more like $600,000 or $680,000, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Would be my guess.
And just with regards to the market, as much as this is speaking general for the entire island, there's obviously, little pocket, more local, hyper-local markets being, say right within Charlottetown or right within Summerside, and then within certain subdivisions and within certain price ranges, you might end up finding a little bit of maybe a lean towards a seller's market in some of those areas, and then other properties may be towards a buyer's market. So we're just speaking general, overall, the entire province.
Real estate's a supply and demand market, just like the stock market. So if you have a product like that 3-bedroom bungalow that went on the market in a pretty good neighborhood for under $400,000, it sold in a week or 2?
Yes.
But if that same house was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was, in fact, there are examples of this on the island, $2, $3, $4 million, yeah, you're going to sit on it for a number of years. So it's all supply and demand, and if you're looking for less expensive, I think this holds true right throughout North America, just go to the boondocks, go to those places that don't have a lot of employment, a lot of opportunity, shopping, hospitals, golf courses, amenities. You're going to find that real estate's going to be cheaper. Go to Toronto or whatever and go 1,000 miles north. You'll probably find some little town you can probably pick up a house for $200,000 or less.
Absolutely.
A friend of mine actually did that. On the Canadian home side, coming from the Canadian Real Estate Association for April 26th, the Canadian home sales edge higher in April The number of home sales recorded over the Canadian MLS system is up 0.7% month-over-month basis in April 26. There's a bunch of other stuff. I don't want to
No.
stick too much and go through all of this, but things are okay. That's what I'm going to give it. We're going to give it an okay rating.
Okay, good.
The other day, getting on to another subject here that's a little more interesting than stats, I had somebody email me that had a search set up, a live search, which will send her any new listings that come up. And she was also inclined to look at the sales data. And she sent me an email that said, I've been assuming list price equals market value.
No, you never assume something.
What advice do we have for people looking for properties in any market? And I know this for a fact because I'm always looking at property everywhere. Florida, Texas, California, Ontario, BC. Trying to think where else. I think that's about it. But there's probably some other places. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm dawdling.
Yes.
I'll stop my dawdling. So basically, when you're seeing the asking price, that could be any price. Ideally, when an agent lists a property for sale, they would like to see it at market value. No, they're not trying to put a low price on it to sell it quick, 99.9% of the time. Most home sellers, though, all feel that their house is worth more. If you did a poll of 1,000 home sellers, all of them, except maybe 2, would think their house is worth more than it actually is in reality.
And that very much so, because these finishes, there's a house down the road, I've been in that house and I know this shows better. And so they always take that position. But so this client that you have, Michael, a buyer client, so she was assuming what the properties were listed at. So being active on realtor.ca and whatever, if you have her on a custom collaboration site search, was the actual market value. Is that what she was saying?
Yeah, she thought because a house was on for $500,000, it was worth $500,000. But when she looked at the sales data, and this is the point to this topic, is always look at the sales data. I do know some agents, and I don't know if you do this, maybe you can share it with us, that if they're showing a house in a city where there's actually a neighborhood and you've got other houses within a stone's throw, they'll bring the old sales sheets and they'll drive by or point to those other houses next to or across the street from that have sold and say, well, this green one sold for this blue one sold for this white one sold for this one here sold at a discount because it was a foreclosure, which is rare on the island. Do you do that?
No, because if I have a buyer here and they're looking at 7 properties and I fill their head with a bunch of that kind of information, that probably will just overwhelm them. If I know they are definitely interested in, say they're down to 2 properties and they're trying to make a very educated and informed decision, well, then absolutely you would do what I refer to as a reverse CMA. And a reverse CMA is where, yes, we are assuming that the listing agent and the seller did a comprehensive market analysis to determine the list price on the property. But again, we never assume. So as a buyer's agent, you do a CMA, but you're doing the reverse to try to justify, is this list price actually market value, or has, and we've discussed this on previous episodes, has the listing agent bought the listing and gave an inflated price, or is the seller insistent on this extremely high list price because they've got things banked on that number? And it shouldn't be a buyer's responsibility to pay off somebody's car debt and, all their vacation plans and their home going forward. So as a buyer's agent, it is something that you should do. And a part of the reverse CMA is pulling what has sold in that area. And if your client's still here, they can absolutely take a little drive back down that area, the locations that they're in, and be able to make that determination. If it is shared within a custom collaboration site, the buyer can actually go through the photos. Otherwise, they won't be able to see it and won't be able to compare based on finishes. They'll just be able to see the outside house. So it is not something we can share outside of a custom collaboration site.
And a CMA is basically an appraisal. The acronym stands for Comprehensive Market Analysis. Your agent can do that and should do that in any house you're thinking about buying. Moving along to PEI property taxes. The property tax bills from the province are in the mail, and they sent me this really nice email, and it was like a sales pitch for paying your property. They've made it so convenient. Did I ever tell you the story when I was in the bank one day, and somebody came in, this was back in the days when we had deposit books, and she had this massive pile of checks, and I think the deposit was about $800 and something thousand for the day.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I don't know what this person's into, but if it's legal, I'm getting into it tomorrow. And it turned out to be the province. So it wasn't just the property taxes, it was car registrations and whatever else. But the property tax bills are out, and they're saying they're collecting $305 million through property taxes. And they get into a bunch of other stats and how much they pay for Waste Watch. Thank you for the information. The only thing I do warn you about, I know they're not raising the residential property taxes this time. Is there an election coming up?
I'm not sure.
My money says probably. So they're not raising the residential property taxes, but Patty can tell you that they're definitely raising the commercial property taxes.
Yes, they definitely raise the commercial. It's like significantly higher.
So look at your tax bill. Make sure, and this is the key point to this, that your assessment value isn't exceeding or even close to market value. And keep in mind, you as a homeowner or a property owner always think your stuff's worth more. A lot of professionals, like myself, I get my properties appraised every so many years to make sure they're legitimately evaluated because I want a third party. But check your assessment values because they also in this email go on about how they're raising them based on things like CPI, which I'm not going to get into that debate. CPI is used way too much, Consumer Price Index, and it is not directly proportional or tied into a lot of things like real estate association fees, property values. I mean, you could have an increase in CPI, but you could have a decrease in real estate volume, driving prices down. But this is what they use to advocate this. And of course, people, oh yeah, CPI, that's what they're using. Sounds good to me. What's CPI? I don't know, but they're using it. So keep that in mind when you look at your assessment value, that it's legitimate. And if you need a third party to determine what it's worth, hire an appraiser, or if you have a real estate agent that's a friend or whatever, get them to do something.
And if you've newly acquired a property, say in the last year or so or this year, and your tax assessment is higher than what you purchased it for, now is the time to put in your request to dispute your property tax amount. It's a perfect time. Right now, we are at the end of May. So I would highly and strongly recommend don't just look at that number like people do on a purchase and sale agreement. They just focus on the price and when is it closing and not all the other detail. When you get your property tax bill, make sure you focus on what is the assessment, not just how much is my property taxes this year, and make sure it's in alignment and that it doesn't exceed your purchase price.
Patty, I've got exciting news. I've just bought another property. And what do we do as real estate professionals before we go to the lawyer's office, which a lot of people don't do? We request
a statement of, your closing statement or statement of adjustments.
Your property closing statement. And the reason we do this is because we don't want to walk into a lawyer's office, be unprepared, not have any time to disseminate the information within the property closing statement. We have the ability to ask questions prior to that meeting. Maybe you can tell us what the property closing statement is and what should be contained within it. And I don't know if I should do this to you. I'm going to do it to you anyway. There's a piece of information missing off this statement that I asked them for, and they're going to give it to me one day maybe, and I'll wait by my email.
Okay. Well, your closing statement or your statement of adjustments, what that is at closing, you will receive as a seller, which I guess the sellers would be more of a statement of adjustment. And then as a buyer, it's a closing statement. But this is the purchase price, minus your deposit that you've already paid to your real estate, to the real estate agents or brokerages. Your deposit is held with the listing brokerage, just because I know there's still some confusion about how this whole system works. So it'll have what you did put down, so that gets knocked off of the total purchase price. It will have things like your deed registration, if you have a mortgage, your mortgage registration, your land transfer tax on it, your title search, your title insurance, which is very important to make sure that you have. And that's basically, it has those funds. Oh, if there was a fuel adjustment with regards to oil or propane, that should also be on. So you should, at the final walkthrough, make sure that you have confirmation that the seller has topped up the oil or the propane so that you're able to justify and validate, yes, or your lawyer is on your behalf, that you are indeed paying for a full tank of propane or a full tank of oil. What are you pointing at?
So the other thing about adjustments when it comes to propane or oil when they're consumables, it has to be part of the purchase and sale agreement. Most agents would just allow the default to exist, which is the sellers fill the propane, the oil tank, they hand the invoice off to the purchaser's lawyer, and the purchaser actually ends up paying for those fees. Interesting little side point, a typical oil tank is 910 liters? 920? I think it's 910, but when you get a fill up, they usually fill it up to about 800. So it'd be interesting to see. I've never really looked at this. Are they billing you for a lot of where people refer them as a 900 liter tank, but they're actually about 910? If they're billing you for 900 or 910, but they can only put 800 into it because the vent goes down the tank, and if they were to fill it to 900, oil would start spewing out of the vent. So I've been told by the oil company as of last week.
Yeah.
Something to look at. The other thing I was pointing to is land transfer taxes, depending.
I said that.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell them that sometimes they're a percentile, sometimes they're scaled, sometimes there's an election coming up and the politicians will waive it for votes?
Yeah, first-time home buyers don't, and you have to be a first-time home buyer or not have owned a home if you're in a divorce situation for, I think it's 4 years. You can waive the land transfer tax. On Prince Edward Island, land transfer tax at this time is 1% of purchase price. Other provinces have different variations.
And the other thing the purchaser's lawyer should do is, in this case, there's a massive bill, clear the property taxes. So if the vendor owes $20,000, $30,000 in property taxes because they haven't paid for the last 5 or 10 years, those taxes have to be paid off. Now, you're probably wondering, well, if they haven't paid their property taxes in 5 to 10 years, wouldn't they be foreclosed on by the province?
One would assume.
But that's not the case if you're a senior citizen, because in some places, including Prince Edward Island, there's a program that will allow you to defer your property taxes interest-free until you sell the house. So you know how you get them back?
How do you get them back?
You live to be 110 and you die in the house.
Well, but then if the senior is in a home and they've applied for this program, and you assume that, one day you're going to be getting the house and you realize grandma and grandpa have not been paying they registered for this deferment program, the province could in turn end up just taking the house back if the property taxes, because there's one property that we were very surprised at how high that property tax amount actually became. I'm just going to say this, I 100% do not agree with just whenever. Like I understand seniors need a little bit of help in that. It almost sounds like a reverse mortgage. However, there should be some rules in place to say that, well, the house has to go on, because in my opinion, I feel like the province is setting some of these seniors up for failure when you get into 20 and 30,000 And they're all stressed out and they know they can't pay it.
Well, not only that, but they're under-assessing values of properties because the way the system works is the politicians are thinking about votes, and our property taxes have been manipulated many times over the years in order to get votes. So when you say to seniors, well, you don't have to pay your property taxes until you sell the house, in theory, if I was a senior citizen, I would say to myself, why would I pay them? They're going to just allow them to run forever interest-free. I'd be an idiot to pay them. However, what you run into, and PEI has run into this from what I understand, is you run into a bit of a financial issue now. Because although you're getting voted in, now your deficit is huge, your credit rating is going down interprovincially or interstate. Now you pay more to borrow money, or you issue bonds. I don't get into that subject, but basically you're cutting off a revenue stream. So now you got to pick that change up from somewhere else. And who do you do that to? Well, of course, it's going to be the corporations and the businesses, because just like you're loaded, right, Patty? Just printing $100,000 checks like they're going out of style. So that is the program, and that is the end of my rant. Did you pick out the thing that's missing on this invoice?
The HST.
And why is that important to a corporation or a business?
Yeah, they didn't have HST on your bill.
No, they didn't. So on this property closing statement, what they do is they basically combine legal fees, disbursements, and HST. And they offered me a discount, but it wasn't 100%.
Yes, I see that.
Which I've received in the past sometimes.
Okay.
Should have got 100%. But the HST, harmonized sales tax, is inclusive of an amount. But under the Canadian tax code, you need to see that spelled out, because I can get that HST back through the corporation in the form of an input tax credit, or ITC. A little too much information, I know, but if you are buying as a business, get them to break out that amount, because down the road, if Revenue Canada or CRA comes along and says, well, it's not on the invoice because it's in an entry here that's nondescript, they could, in theory, say that there is no HST on this invoice.
Yeah.
Or part of it.
Absolutely. And the other thing I was going to say with regards to, closing, you've got your closing statement, and that is also at that time is to receive any invoices for work completed and your water test results. I had a property that I closed on many years ago, and I didn't receive my water test results at closing, and it took me a couple months to get my hands on them. So in the meantime, myself and my children were we felt like we were blindly drinking this water, and I was buying bottled water for that time period, just until I could get my hands on and verify. Now, I'm assuming it was a 0, because technically that is the only thing that a lender will approve is a 0 reading. But I needed that for my peace of mind before my little ones were allowed to consume the water from the tap.
You can get your water test done free here, by the way. Like Patty says, it may take some time to get the results. Usually the one result comes back right away. The second one may take some weeks. But in this particular example, which is an excellent example, it ended up that septic tank had cracked and had been contaminating the water, and it was non-drinkable.
Yeah, it turned out.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that's why you're now got that tinge of green.
That happened years later. That happened a long time after.
It did. We're going to get into AI Corner. So this is, I love your little emails you send people. When you send them a purchase and sale, you write that nice little email that says, here's your purchase and sale. You notice we've used a really nice font, and this is what's in it. This is the purchase price, closing date, inspection for home inspection, insurance, whatever else, and you include that. I can't be bothered. I just send them the purchase and sale. I review it on the phone, and we go through those key points. However, the other day I was thinking, because I've been applying AI more and more often every day before the robots come and kill us all.
My God, Michael.
And I thought, I'm going to take the purchase and sale. I'm going to plug it into Claude, which is very good at examining legal documents. I'm going to plug in my counteroffer, which I had created. I'm going to plug a couple of comments in as to why we did certain things in the counteroffer, and then I'm going to have Claude, my AI companion, create an email that explains what the basis for our counteroffer was in a very soft, subtle way, but also I wanted a very slight amount of leverage obtained in this counteroffer that basically said, we're not lowering the price because you guys are having a home inspection done, because I know that's what your angle here is most of the time. Fed it into Claude, it shot out this really nice email. I think I did give it one further instruction, something I had forgotten. But boy, did it look good. You saw the email.
Yeah, the email was good. And Claude is spelled Claude. So it's just another tool, AI communication tool, similar to ChatGPT, but it does have different results. And yes, that is now the new Michael filter, because it did definitely soften up. Sometimes you have a harsh tone in your emails, and that I was very impressed, but I knew immediately as I started to read through this is not 100% Michael.
The other thing it was good at doing is, and you can probably use this, is you can put your purchase and sale in there, and it will create the email that Patty usually creates manually. It'll say, we have an offer. It's open until this date and this time. This is how much it is. This is the deposit. This is the other conditions. It will break all that down for you and put it into an email. It's mind-blowing.
It's nice. But I will say I don't create it every single time. Yes, my clients receive an email summary. I always do an email summary of my offers, or at least I'd say 99% of the time. However, I do have within Gmail, I have a Gmail Business Suite account. Within Gmail, I have a template that I'm able to apply, and I am basically going in, I don't miss anything, and I'm just filling in or completing the lines.
Aren't you just a fancy pants?
Yes, I am.
So if you could take that template, allow it to grab the information. We just had to pause there for a minute and move the vehicle because they are cleaning the parking lot. So we apologize if there's no consistency because we forgot what we actually said. I didn't forget. You forgot, I thought.
No, well, you were the one talking and we were on the Claude topic, but I think we were pretty much finished. And yes, we never know what happens. This gentleman just comes over and starts tapping on the window.
Studio door.
Yes, our studio door.
Knocked on the studio door, told us to move. So noted, from now on, do not park in a parking lot that needs to be cleaned. In May, Patty, what do we have here? The lawyer you use can make your transaction extremely smooth or potentially induce a lot of stress and anxiety. And I've personally experienced this because I do use a number of lawyers, and I shouldn't. I just should be using the best one. But I try to help new lawyers out. But I do find that the difference in experience is huge. And I don't know if it's because I'm in real estate and it's just expect me to know everything, but just sometimes it's nice to be kept in the loop.
No, I agree. And as much as you said new lawyers, and I don't know how you do your business in that sense.
Willy-nilly. I'm just all over the place.
Okay. Well, what I like to do is I like to ensure that the lawyer that if I have input, I try to send a few lawyer options to my clients to try to match the expectation, because I have lawyer clients who I have sent to a newer lawyer, and it was not a good match at all. So I have to be very aware of the skill set of the lawyer, their language, where are they at in their business, what kind of properties, what is their experience, and I do try to align them or match them with the client. I've had a lawyer client once just tell me that this wasn't a good match, Patty, be more aware of this in the future. And that was years ago. And I always remember that. But you're absolutely right. If you do have a very good match and you have a good lawyer representing whatever the needs are of the particular client, it can be very smooth. Sometimes clients will go out and they will find, based on their social circles or Google or wherever it is, and they will find a lawyer that may make the transaction feel like there's, I'm just going to say this really nice, but like a little bit of friction to it. And it's not as smooth as it could have been if they were working with somebody else that maybe was more in alignment and spoke their language.
Or what I found when I'm dealing with certain lawyers is I'm not being kept in the loop because I think they just assume I know what's going on. And it's like the day before closing and they don't have any money to close, particularly if it's a cash deal and they have no mortgage instructions. They don't reach out and say, hey, can you kind of just like drop by the office and give us some money so we can close this? And I find I have to follow up.
Yeah. Well, between that, and I've also had clients that have said the lawyer says they don't have the paperwork, and my clients would get, or even just clients of Powerhouse, my office, will say, well, why hasn't your office sent the paperwork? Which then creates a negative experience, whereas it was just not good communication between the lawyer and wherever their law firm is, because it was sent to them, but it was the assistant or the paralegal that ended up making this statement to the client, only in turn to say, no, that contract was sent on this date. And it caused some undue stress.
And that is why I have the master spreadsheet.
What's the master spreadsheet?
Oh, Patty, the master spreadsheet is incredible. I created it without any use of AI, but basically what it does is it keeps track of when the offer was received, when it was accepted, when it was delivered to my office, when the deposit was received, when it was transmitted to the office, when the conditions were all removed, when that was transmitted to the lawyer's office. So I've got a record of absolutely everything that's going on. I know who the lawyers are involved from the buyer and the seller side. I know who the agents are. And I also have a little space in there for comments.
Well,
so no one can come back and say, we didn't get this then. I can go back and say, no, you got it. The other thing that Patty and I do, should we spill our beans, our secret?
I don't know what secret you're going to share.
We all track our emails. So we have an absolute complete report as to every time and when that email was opened, if it was forwarded, if it was reread down the road, and we can print that report out and say, your lawyer says they didn't get the report? Well, somebody read it at 7:23 a.m. on May the 1st.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they reread it on the 5th, and they reread it on the 9th. Do they have robots?
I don't know. But even the best spreadsheet, Michael, can still create...
Not my spreadsheet.
Yes, but the client has been given this information, and until they get in touch with you to get validation or confirmation that it was sent, there's a period of time, and if it's over the weekend and say they just wait till Monday, that they're sitting in this and they shouldn't.
So again, getting back to the communication with the lawyer, send your client an email, say, this file is just sent to your lawyer's office. If they tell you anything different down the road, I've already told you we sent it. You send them the proof from the mail tracking program. You typically don't have this issue. And the other thing I do, and I'm sure you do it as well, because you probably stole my idea, is I always schedule my sends so they go to that office, and I do the same with my office about 8 o'clock in the morning, because I don't want to be at the bottom of the queue from Saturday morning. On Monday morning, I want to be at the top of the queue, because most people read emails from top to bottom.
Yes.
So I schedule them so they show up when they're most likely to be opened.
Yeah, and I absolutely do that. I want mine to be whatever day of the week it is, and weekends are a great example of that because their email, feed continues to come in. I do want mine addressed, so I will time it. Sometimes I'll even do like 8:05.
Well, I was just about to say, I know you send yours at 8, so I usually send mine at 8:01.
Moving along,
Patty, you can cover this next subject in its entirety because I have nothing to contribute.
I know. First thing I do once I assume ownership of a house is secure the property. So this particular topic is very important, and it also is something that I'm going to end up sharing. If you want a more comprehensive list of what I'm about to share with you, you can get in the Moving to Prince Edward Island from the Michael and Patty podcast private Facebook group. It is filled with a bunch of information, summaries of every single episode. We have Toolbox Tuesday, which is where I am pulling this from, this particular Toolbox Tuesday, so you don't have to go through almost a year's worth of posts, Toolbox Tuesday posts to find it. But it was featured on March 31st, which was your birthday. This is where this one came from.
Well, happy birthday to me.
Yes.
I finally turned 40.
So the first things that you should do when you take ownership of a property is secure it. And what does securing a property look
You
like?
glue all the doors shut, nail them. Nail, screw, and glue all the doors shut.
So changing the locks or having them rekeyed is something that I would strongly recommend and suggest. You never know where the sellers, the island it's a small place and they could have family and friends and people with keys, and I'd just rekey them, or change the locks. It's just a peace of mind. Reset your garage door code if this applies to you. So just get in. You can, again, I think Michael uses Claude for this, but you can take a picture of the type of, or the serial number and everything, and it will give you a little manual summary as to here's how to reset the garage door code. So there's no shortage of instructions out there, so you don't have to wait and chase down, the agents to chase down the seller and how do I do this for step-by-step instructions. AI is filling all that in, or you might just find a manual by just Googling it as well. Change the smart lock access codes. Again, same spiel with regards to instructions on how to do that. Test your smoke detectors. Kind of use your house anniversary as your smoke detector anniversary date. So I would just pick up the batteries or make sure, test them if they're hardwired in, that all your smoke detectors work. Your insurance company will thank you. Check exterior lights for your nighttime peace of mind and security. So just do a walk around the house in the evening and make sure, all my lights are on, so your home should feel secure. Now, this is something, again, if it's applicable, but camera and alarm systems. If the home has the smart systems, which some of them do, reset access. Do not wait for this. Make sure you get in, you have all the instructions, again, before you really start moving into the home, and you take control of the security and the alarm system. For way more than that and things to do, the first steps inside the homes to do, again, moving to Prince Edward Island from the Michael and Patty podcast, spelled completely out. It is a private Facebook group which features even more valuable information than this little point.
Let's move along to how tight can I make the timelines? I recently received an offer. I have completely communicated with the purchaser's agent for days now. He wrote an offer that was wonderful. The only thing is we wanted an offer that was clean. And that in real estate terminology means you're writing the check. There's no mortgage, there's no home inspection, there's nothing, no insurance inspection. It's clean. We're giving you a 50 or 100%, $100,000 discount. So in exchange for that, you're getting a lower price on the house. In this particular case, the offer did not come in clean. And one of my concerns was the home inspection and the insurance inspection, the financing, they were all tiered. In other words, they had 2 weeks for their financing, 3 weeks for the insurance inspection, 4 weeks for the home inspection. So essentially, we were tied up for a month. What I said to myself, with, of course, the help of Claude and ChatGPT, three of us were talking one morning.
That's probably what your meetings look like and consist of.
It does. I said, these guys, the purchasers, said that they had the money, and money was no issue, because I told them, I said, don't even bring in an offer unless you know your purchasers have the money. It was a newer agent, and he told me they didn't know if they had the money. He said, why don't you wait until they have the money before we waste a bunch of time writing up offers, presenting them, counter offers, and on and on. So at this point, they said they had the money. Great. However, the purchase and sale didn't read that way, because if they had the money, why wouldn't they just do their home inspection, insurance inspection right away and get their financing clause removed at the same time, because they've already been essentially completely approved to 95%. So we counteroffered with all of these conditions and pulled them all back to 1 week. And you know what they did with that counteroffer, much to my surprise?
Signed it?
They accepted it.
Ah.
I can't tell you how happy Claude and ChatGPT and I were.
Me, myself, and I meeting?
Because they wrote the letter, the email to the agent, and it got accepted. So that was pretty cool. So if you do see an offer come in, and you know this, Patty, or maybe you can tell us, and you see like financing for 7 to 10 days, and you've got home inspection for 12 to 14 days, and insurance inspection for 14 to 18 days. Number one, the insurance inspection is a phone call. It can be done right away for free. Number two, if they're pushing the home inspection past the financing date, they're doing that because they're telling their agent typically that we don't want to put the money out for a home inspection until we know we have our financing. And I'm thinking, you're tiering this in such a fashion that makes me feel like you guys aren't sure if you can get the money. So I want to find out if you can by moving your home inspection tighter to make sure you're going to put some money out of your pocket to prove that you're serious.
Yeah, and a good listing agent will be able to read and interpret an agreement of purchase and sale. A new agent may just go, here's the offer price closing, and these are their conditions. If you're a listener of this podcast, you're going to be very well informed and know that's not enough of a service. So you can obviously go in and maybe assist or help because you do work as a team with your agent, regardless of where you are in North America. It is a team effort. Your real estate agent should bring the toolbox of tools to help, and the seller has their part of the transaction and process to also be, take part of, which we've covered in previous episodes. However, an offer tells a story. So if you're a buyer and you are working with your agent and you end up saying, well, I'm not 100% sure of my financing, or you misrepresent your situation because you are not understanding what pre-approval and pre-qualified and all of that means, again, something we've covered on just a couple episodes ago, actually, Michael, then you should go back and maybe listen to that particular episode to make sure you're well informed and educated. And as a buyer's agent, you should also know what this means, how qualified are they, because it is your reputation and your business that you are putting forth and communicating with the other agent. And again, if you're up against with, say, Michael or, another seasoned agent, myself, and you are just saying, well, this is what my client wants, well, that's not good enough. You need to have a better presentation as to why you wrote the offer the way you did. So offers tell stories. A good buyer's agent will make sure that their buyer writes a good story. A good listing agent will be able to decipher, like you did, Michael, when you were reviewing the contract, this buyer's not so confident after all.
How could this have been cushioned so we didn't have to counter this?
How could it have been cushioned?
Let's just run a quick hypothetical by you. Purchaser's agent calls me. He says, I've sent you this. I had no communication from this agent after I received it. I had no explanation as to why certain things were dated certain times. But what if the purchaser's agent phoned up and said, Michael, we just sent you an offer. Financing's a little long, but it's long because there's like 2 or 3 family members involved and he has to sell a car and do this and that. And his passport's on its way from the passport office and his dog ate his driver's license. So it's going to be a little longer, but we do have about pretty well 100% chance of getting financing, but he can also pay cash as well if the financing doesn't go together. That's why we've asked for that longer timeline, which probably would have made it more acceptable if there was a story rather than just, here's the offer.
Here's the offer, and now I'm up to interpret. And again, you making assumptions. It is communication. And I mean, another reason that not that I'm giving excuses for buyers to say, yes, say this. I heard this from the Michael and Patty show.
It's Pam's.
No, it's not. Was that whether the client is not on island and, they viewed it and then they had to leave, and whether even if they're in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, this is the next time they can get back. But just having that communication, or my parents are flying in and I really want them there for the home inspection. This is their arrival date. We just weren't expecting to come across this property right now. So that's why we want it. But communication is so crucial and key to a smooth transaction and, interaction and communication with the other parties.
And I know this is going to terrify a lot of younger agents, but we are going to do this communication. Are you ready?
On the phone.
On the phone.
Yes.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
We're going to talk on the phone. We're not going to do this messaging back and forth for endless hours and days.
And guess what we're not going to care about? Interrupting the other person.
We're not even going to text you. We're just going to call you out of the blue.
Because that's okay.
At 4 a.m.
You have the right, if you are in an appointment, to not answer the phone and let it go to your voicemail and then call back. But yes, please don't concern yourself if you're a younger agent listening to this. Well, I don't want to inconvenience or interrupt their day. I'm just going to send them a text and see,
or
how much.
Email.
Or an email. I find a lot of them just get into texting more so today, but it's okay. We're in real estate, we're in sales, and it can easily go to voicemail. Most of us are conscientious enough to know that we put our phones on silent when we're with clients and in appointments. So it is just, if it vibrates a little bit, that'll be the only notification.
Mine makes a chicken sound.
Oh, of course. Pick up the phone is what we're saying here.
It's just a matter of time before people are going to put on their voicemail that they don't accept voice calls. Please message me. I can see this happening. Patty, it's been a great episode, even though we had to relocate the studio because of interruptions in the parking lot. Let's shut her down.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Michael and Patty Show, otherwise known as MAPS, PEI's podcast that helps guide and navigate you through the buying and selling, and a little bit of Prince Edward Island. We appreciate each and every one of you for downloading and listening in and submitting your questions. And those who are in the private Facebook group, from the Michael and Patty Show, as well, your contributions and that to this group are invaluable, and we appreciate it so much.
That's it. It's a wrap. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.